Recent UFC fight announcements in the last week. There's been a lot of UFC fights announced. Some great, some okay, and some that are in the works. We're going to focus on the official fights that are on right now, starting with Gabriel Benitez versus Laron Murphy. I'm a huge fan of Laron Murphy. Love the guy's performance against Chikadze at UFC 242 on short notice. Came in, got the draw. I thought he lost. Judges gave him a draw. Remember, the judges are the same judges that gave Paul Felder a win that night. So clearly they were not in their right mind. However, even to make the fight close against Chikadze on short notice shows how good this Laron Murphy guy is. Undefeated from Manchester. I feel like him versus Gabriel Benitez is a great fight to make. Who's the next guy up? Who's going to solidify themselves as a contender in the UFC? Great fight. Moving on. At UFC London, Marc versus Stephen Ray. Great fight again. This probably be headlining the prelims or most likely on the main card, because if you remember, Stevie Ray was the co-main event at UFC Singapore, so his star power's gone upwards. Marc, everyone knows who Marc is. Just beat Joe Duffy. Great performance there. I thought Joe Duffy was going to win. Proved me wrong. We'll see if he proves me wrong again. Stevie Ray's a big old lightweight, so that might not be the case. Dangerous fight for both guys. Stevie Ray, obviously the chin has been cracked a couple of times. We'll see if Marc got it in him to get it done. But to be honest with you, this is just a relevance fight at lightweight. Who's going to go on a 2-fight win streak? Who's going to re-establish themselves as a top contender? And who's going to move their way into the top 15? Great fight. Marc, Stevie Ray for UFC London. UFC London, even without Darren Till right now, looking stacked with contenders. I'm looking forward to it. Moving on, we've got Mike Davis versus Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze just got a split decision win over Brandon Davis, if I remember correctly. Good fight. It was a very close fight between him and Brandon Davis. Mike Davis, another Davis. That's a weird coincidence. He fights two Davises in a row. Mike Davis just had a massive performance over Thomas Gifford. And I know Thomas Gifford wasn't the best fighter in the world. However, you've got to consider it was an amazing performance. Mike Davis is a dangerous man. Am I thinking about the right guy in Mike Davis here? I'm not. I don't know who the fuck this guy is. I'm thinking of a completely different person. Never mind. Mike Davis, I don't know who that is. I think I've got something completely wrong here. There was a guy who beat the shit out of Thomas Gifford. If it's not him, then I've just completely fucked up. But that's a decent fight as well, I guess. Marcin Tybura versus Sergey Spivak to UFC Norfolk as well. UFC Norfolk was a card that really needed some help. And this fight and the next one I'm about to announce really gave the card the help that it needed. Amazing fight. Marcin Tybura versus Sergey Spivak. Who's going to stay relevant in the division? Sergey Spivak coming off a big win over Taito Ivasa at UFC 243. Marcin Tybura, a string of losses in a row. I feel like we're seeing maybe the end, unless he can turn back the clock. Sergey Spivak is a huge man, great fighter. I feel like he's going to get the job done over Marcin Tybura, because I've just seen a lack of motivation in Marcin Tybura's life. And I know that some shit's gone on outside of the cage. However, I've just got to go off what I see. I see him getting in worse and worse shape. I'm going to bet that it keeps going on that way. Sergey Spivak is a dangerous man to fight. Taito Ivasa learned that out the hard way. Yeah, I think Sergey Spivak's going to get the job done. But that's an amazing fight to UFC Norfolk. Should definitely be on the main card, perhaps. Or the headliner of the prelims. Who knows? Cutelaba versus Magomed Ankalaev. In my opinion, should be the co-main event. Really. UFC Norfolk doesn't have a good co-main event. Right now it's Megan Anderson, which means they don't have many options, is what that tells me. If Megan Anderson's your co-main event, that's an empty fucking card. Cutelaba versus Magomed Ankalaev, great fight. Dangerous for Cutelaba. Really dangerous, so I respect him for taking this fight on. Because right now, if there's a guy in the division at light heavyweight that no one wants to face, after his performance against Dalchalungiambala, Magomed Ankalaev is the man that no one wants to face. But Cutelaba, listen, credit to him. He might talk a big game. He might do the big charades before the fight starts by throwing down the gauntlet and getting all mean muggy and getting in everyone's face and shit like that. But the guy's really on shit right now. He's on crud. Because Magomed Ankalaev is not a guy that you want to take on, especially as an unranked contender. But Cutelaba says, fuck it. I think Ankalaev would win, but I think it's dangerous for both men. I didn't credit Dalchalungiambala as a fighter. I credited him as a strong man. Because that's what he was. He didn't beat the best guy to get into the UFC. He didn't beat the best guy when he was in the UFC. And Ankalaev made him look like a fool. We'll see if Ion Cutelaba can crack Ankalaev. That's an amazing fight. That should be the co-main event of UFC Norfolk, 100%. That's an amazing fight to happen. Moving on. Guido Cannetti versus Danaa Batgerel. No fucking idea, but Danaa Batgerel's got these weird lumps underneath his arms. I don't know what's going on there, but that's very strange. Looks like he's spawning children out of his armpits there. That's a very strange thing. I'll probably go with Guido Cannetti because his name's Guido. I like that name. Very derogative term, but I like the name of it. Moving on. Nik Lentz versus Nad Narimani, added to UFC Raleigh, North Carolina. Last notice. Last minute. Great fight. Nik Lentz is a known name. Everyone knows who Nik Lentz is. Nad Narimani, I believe, is 2-1, fighting out of the UK as well. Another UK contender at lightweight. At featherweight, sorry. Great fight. Nad Narimani's dangerous. Nik Lentz is not in shape, not in his prime. Coming off yet another KO loss in his career. I think money on Narimani would be good money, to be honest with you. Real good money. Moving on. Brad Tavares falls out of his fight with Antonio Carlos Jr., which at first I was kind of gutted by because Brad Tavares, I wanted to see him bounce back after his loss to Edmund Shabazian. Antonio Carlos Jr. was a perfect opponent. But instead, we get Magomed Muradov versus Antonio Carlos Jr., in which case, I'm actually more interested. Magomed Muradov coming off 2 big wins in the UFC. His first one against Alessio Di Chirico wasn't the most dominant. His next one against Kyle Nelson, I believe the guy's name was. It wasn't Kyle Nelson, it was Trevor something. Trevor Smith, I want to say. Dominant performance there. Magomed slapped him around the octagon and finished him in the 3rd round. Dominant win. Him versus Antonio Carlos Jr. Sign me up. That's on the main card of UFC Brasilia, I'm sure. Amazing fight. Can't wait for Magomed to get his shine that he needs, because he's been on the early prelims 2 times in a row. He doesn't deserve to be there. He deserves to be on the main card. Dominant performance, I'm hoping, from Magomed Muradov, but Antonio Carlos Jr. is a trickster, man. He gets it done. Brock Weaver versus Rodrigo Vargas, added to UFC Rio Rancho. This is the guy that UFC's putting a lot of money behind. People seem to think he's a beast. I feel like he is going to have some success against Rodrigo Vargas, however, dangerous fight, man. I don't know how good Brock Weaver is. I don't know how everyone seems to be so hyped up about him. Yes, he's a good guy with a good record. But, like, until you fought guys in the UFC, I really can't get behind people, you know? Pulled out of his first fight. Now he's back here at Rio Rancho. Rio Rancho is a stacked card. If he takes up position on the main card, I'm going to be annoyed, because he deserves to maybe headline the prelims at best. The card at Rio Rancho is stacked full of people that deserve to be on the main card. Brock Weaver, put him to headline the prelims. I'd love that fight. Great fight. We'll see if he gets the job done, and then I'll get on board with the Brock Weaver hype train. Someone tell me why everyone's so gassed up about him, because as far as I'm concerned, it's just another good recorded guy that hangs around with Jason Knight. I don't know, really. Moving on. Makwan Amirkhani. I really fucked up that name. Makwan Amirkhani versus Mike Grundy. Mike Grundy trains with Darren Till. Amazing fighter, great grappler. Makwan Amirkhani, though, great grappler as well, but coming off a real damaging fight against Shane Burgos, where he kind of just got the shit beat out of him, to be honest with you. Tough spot for Makwan Amirkhani, I'll be honest with you guys. Mike Grundy's a real dangerous guy. Real dangerous guy. Got a big win in his UFC debut. I believe it was against Nad Narimani, but it was kind of a weird stoppage. Nad Narimani was still on his feet. It was kind of a Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw 2 situation, but a little bit less dominant. So I'd like to see Mike Grundy really get a statement win against Makwan Amirkhani, but I feel like Makwan will win this one. Because I'll be honest with you, there's levels to the unranked game of mixed martial arts, and I keep saying this to people, but people don't seem to believe me. As soon as people fall below 15, all of a sudden they're irrelevant. I mean, there's levels to the unranked class. 15 to 20. I feel like Makwan's right in that slot. Like, he's just not done enough to get himself into the rankings, but he's beaten everyone else. I feel like people sleep on Makwan Amirkhani, and the last time he fought an English guy in England, he beat him, and that was Chris Fishgold. I believe that was at UFC Copenhagen, actually, so I may be wrong there. But either way, amazing fight. Mike Grundy wants to solidify himself as a contender. This is a great fight to get that one done. Makwan Amirkhani, great opponent. This is going to be on the main card, I'm sure. We'll see if Makwan can bounce back. I feel like he will do. I like Mike Grundy. I know he's well credentialed. He trains at a good gym with Darren Till. But Makwan, I feel like, is just a huge lightweight. Huge featherweight, sorry. Different kind of beast. Feel like he's going to show Mike Grundy the ropes a little bit. We'll see what happens. Mike Grundy could come out there and just chin this fall because Makwan Amirkhani, I'll say it over and over again, stand-up is rudimentary. Rudimentary stand-up. You see him get clipped by shots he shouldn't be getting clipped by in his experience. We'll see if Mike Grundy can land a winner. We'll see what happens there. Calvin Kattar versus Jeremy Stephens. I hate to say I told you so. What did I say was going to happen? I know I said that Stephens would face Edson Barboza, but what did I say before that? Before Stephens went on this massive silence. Kattar versus Stephens would be the next fight to happen. I said that the day after that Kattar lost to Zabit. Kattar versus Stephens is the fight to make. UFC 248, probably going to be on the main card because both guys are coming off main event headliners. With Jeremy Stephens coming off his... not main event headline, but he was main evented against Yair Rodriguez in UFC Mexico. Then you've got Calvin Kattar coming off a headliner in UFC Moscow. These two are going to fight each other. That's an amazing fight, man. I can't wait for this shit. This is going to be sick. I hope this is on the main card of the pay-per-view. If not, maybe stick it on the headliner of the prelims. But if it's any lower than that, you're disrespecting the sport. This is the fight I want to see right now. UFC 248 just got another big fight announced. Kattar Stephens. Looking forward to it. I feel like on the slope of Stephens' career, Kattar's going to be able to bounce back after his fight with Zabit, in which he did very well. Much better than Stephens did against Zabit anyway. I mean, if that fight had a quarter of another round added on the end, or another minute added on the end, Kattar probably would have beaten Zabit. So, that tells you all you need to know. Calvin Kattar, I feel like, is going to get a jump on Jeremy Stephens. I just feel like the frequency of the big shot landing in Jeremy Stephens' career seems to be going down. Like, he seems to be landing that big one-hitter quitter a little bit less. Or it just doesn't seem to be landing with the same pop anymore. Calvin Kattar, dominant chin, sticks his chin down, gets in your face. I just feel like, technically, a much superior boxer to Jeremy Stephens. Probably going to get the job done there. But then again, great fight announced. I know there's more fights that are kind of being rumoured right now with Damian Maia and Gilbert Burns, which is amazing. Again, can't wait for that one. I'm only going on official ones for now, though. But Gilbert Burns is dangerous for Maia. See you later. Click that there. Goodbye.